Consumed by rage and bitterness, Cynthia made a decision that she would drag as many people down with her as she could. She felt betrayed by life, by faith, and even by the God she had faithfully served. Hospitals in different locations were crowded with people seeking to be tested. The air was thick with cries and wails of despair. Wives were sobbing, husbands were grieving, and families were shattered. Once upon a time, in the vibrant city of Lagos, there lived a young and beautiful lady named Cynthia, known far and wide for her meekness and kind heart. She had a younger sister named Mabel, whom she adored deeply. After the untimely death of their parents, Cynthia took on the responsibility of caring for Mabel, ensuring she lacked nothing. Cynthia was a diligent student at the University of Lagos, fully committed to her studies. She knew that education was her ticket to a better life, not just for herself but for Mabel as well. Because of her focus and determination, Cynthia was not interested in relationships, preferring to turn down the advances of many suitors. Among those who sought her affection was a young man named Daniel. Handsome and charismatic, Daniel was used to getting what he wanted. When Cynthia politely rejected his advances, Daniel's ego was bruised. He harbored a dark plan, unwilling to accept her refusal. One fateful evening, as Cynthia walked back to her hostel from the library, Dan and his gang ambushed her. They dragged her to a secluded spot and subjected her to a horrifying assault. They all took turns with her. The brutality of their actions shattered Cynthia's spirit and left her deeply traumatized. In the days that followed, Cynthia struggled to come to terms with what had happened. The once vibrant young woman became a shadow of her former self, battling the emotional and psychological scars left by the assault. Her only solace was Mabel, her sister, who remained by her side, offering unwavering support and love. Months later, Cynthia was grappling with the aftermath of the assault. Her spirit was fragile, and she found herself falling ill frequently. Concerned about her health, she decided to visit a local hospital nearby. The visit brought unexpected news that shattered her already fragile world. One of the tests she took came out positive. Cynthia tested HIV positive. The revelation left Cynthia in a state of profound shock, unable to process the gravity of the diagnosis. Her eyes welled up with tears, but they did not fall. She simply gazed into space. When she returned home, she felt more broken than ever. She decided to hide her test results from Mabel, her sister. Mabel, who was unaware that Cynthia had taken the test, assumed Cynthia's cold demeanor was still a lingering effect of the past trauma. Mabel, ever supportive, tried to comfort her. She reassured her that time heals all wounds. But the pain was too deep, too raw. Cynthia felt isolated in her suffering, despite the love and care from Mabel. That night, as Cynthia lay restless in her bed, her thoughts a whirlwind of pain and despair. In the stillness of the night, she made a vow that would change everything. "Why me?" she cried out. "Why did this happen to me, God? Why did you allow this to happen to me? I have served you all my life. I have kept my virginity all these years. I don't flirt around, and this is how you choose to repay me. I can't take this. No, I can't. If this is how you repay me after all my goodness, then I can't go down alone." Consumed by rage and bitterness, Cynthia made a decision that she would drag as many people down with her as she could. She felt betrayed by life, by faith, and even by the God she had faithfully served. Her heart, once filled with kindness and compassion, was now overtaken by the dark desire for vengeance. The next day, Cynthia's demeanor had changed. She masked her turmoil with a calm exterior, but underneath, her mind was racing with her newfound mission. Each morning, Cynthia woke up with a fierce determination burning within her. She went to the bustling market and changed her entire wardrobe, buying all types of seductive clothes she could find. Her mission was clear: to lure as many unsuspecting men into her web as possible. Dressed in her new attire, Cynthia began frequenting clubs, parties, and popular hangouts. She used her beauty and charms to attract attention. Every smile, every glance was a part of her calculated strategy. She felt a twisted sense of satisfaction each time she succeeded in her goal, believing she was executing some form of justice for the pain she had endured. Within the interval of 1 month, Cynthia had lost count of how many men she had slept with, both married and unmarried. Cynthia, still consumed by a sense of doom and driven by the belief that her time was limited, took a practical step to ensure her sister Mabel would be cared for when she was no longer around. She opened a bank account in Mabel's name and began depositing all the money she received from different men into the account. She wanted to make sure that Mabel would have enough financial support to cater for herself in the future. She meticulously saved every bit of money she could, hoping it would provide a secure future for her sister. As weeks turned into months, Cynthia's actions became the talk of the town. Her transformation from a meek, kind-hearted lady to a seductress shocked those who knew her. Mabel, her sister, noticed the change and became deeply concerned. She couldn't understand why Cynthia had changed so drastically and worried about the consequences of her actions. One evening, as Cynthia prepared for another night out, Mabel confronted her. "Sister, what are you doing to yourself? This isn't you. I know you are hurting, but this path that you are on will only bring more pain." Cynthia snapped, her voice filled with anger and bitterness. "You don't understand, Mabel. No one does. Don't worry, time will reveal everything." She left, leaving Mabel heartbroken. One day, Cynthia lay quietly on her bed, tears silently streaming down her face as she reflected on the twists and turns her life had taken. Lost in her thoughts, she was brought back to reality by a knock on the door. Wiping her eyes quickly, she went to open it, expecting Mabel or one of their friends. To her shock, standing there with Mabel was a familiar face, Peter, who looked shocked too. Peter was one of the many men she had slept with and infected. Her heart sank, and she felt a cold wave of panic and guilt wash over her. She opened her mouth wide in disbelief and turned to Mabel. "What are you doing with him?" Mabel smiled innocently, unaware of the horror in Cynthia's eyes. "Sister, this is Peter. He's my boyfriend. We've been dating for weeks now, and I decided it was time for you to meet him." Cynthia cried out in a loud voice, her emotions erupting in a mix of horror, fear, and guilt. "No, Mabel, you can't be with him. You have no idea who he is." Mabel looked confused and concerned, taken aback by her sister's reaction. "Sister, what's wrong? Why are you so upset?" Cynthia, trembling with panic and guilt, pointed at Peter. "Peter, I've slept with him." Mabel turned to Peter, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. "Is this true? Have you..." Peter, caught off guard, tried to defend himself. "Babe, I had no idea she was your sister. I didn't know." "Mabel, have you two been intimate?" Cynthia asked, her voice breaking. Mabel nodded slowly, her face pale. "Yes, we have." At that moment, Cynthia felt the world closing in on her. The weight of her actions, the guilt of what she had done, and the fear for her sister's health overwhelmed her. She fainted, collapsing to the floor. Mabel and Peter rushed to her side. They quickly called for help and rushed Cynthia to the hospital. As they waited anxiously for news, Mabel's mind raced with worry for her sister and totally confused. Hours later, the doctor invited Mabel and Peter to his office, and with a heavy heart, he shared the devastating news. From the tests we have conducted, we found out that Cynthia is HIV positive. Mabel and Peter were dumbfounded. The pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Peter was in total shock, unable to comprehend the gravity of the situation. The doctor continued, "Given this information, it's important that both of you get tested as well." With a heavy sense of dread, Mabel and Peter agreed. They both took HIV tests and awaited the results with a mix of fear and hope. The wait felt like an eternity, and the air was thick with tension. When the results came back, the news was grim. Peter was confirmed to be HIV positive. The reality hit him like a ton of bricks, and he slumped in his chair. The hospital was filled with chaos. Cynthia, still recovering in her hospital bed, sensed the chaos and felt a deep sense of remorse for the pain her actions had caused. Mabel walked into Cynthia's room, tears in her eyes. "Sister, how could you?" Cynthia looked up, her eyes filled with regret and sorrow. "Mabel, I am so sorry. I never wanted this to happen. I was so lost, so angry. Yes, you were hurting. But was infecting innocent people a solution to your trauma? Do you know how many lives you have shattered? How many people you have infected?" She cried bitterly, her voice echoing through the hospital room. She turned and left the room. Cynthia, already broken by guilt and sorrow, felt each word pierce her heart. The guilt she had been carrying intensified, and the reality of the pain she had caused weighed heavily on her soul. She had tried to cope with her trauma in the worst possible way, and now she was faced with the devastating consequences. The doctor called Cynthia, Mabel and Peter to his office for a counseling session. He began with a calm and reassuring tone. "I know this is a very difficult time for all of you, but I want you to understand that being HIV positive is not the end of the world. There are effective medications available that can help you live a long, healthy life." Turning to Cynthia, he continued, "If you had confided in a healthcare professional earlier, we could have started you on treatment immediately. With the right medication and care, you can live your life to the fullest and achieve all your dreams." He then addressed all three of them. "You will all start on antiretroviral therapy, which will help manage the virus. It's important to take these medications consistently and come in for regular checkups. With proper adherence, you will maintain a good quality of life." The doctor handed out the medications to them. "Mabel, we are starting you on pre-exposure prophylaxis. Since you have been exposed to the virus, this will help reduce your risk of becoming HIV positive. It's crucial that you take these drugs exactly as prescribed." He then gave them detailed instructions on how to take their medications and stressed the importance of not missing any doses. "Please, make sure to come back for more medication before your current supply runs out. Regular monitoring and support are essential for managing this condition." The doctor's reassurance and the promise of effective treatment provided them with a sense of direction and control. Back at home, Mabel was still very angry with Cynthia, who was desperate to earn her sister's forgiveness. "Cynthia, the only way I can begin to forgive you is if you make an open confession. Everyone who has been intimate with you needs to know, so they can start their own treatment. You need to go on national television and tell your story. not out of spite or anger, but to reach a wider audience and help those who might be affected. Cynthia, fully grasping the gravity of her actions and the responsibilities she bore, agreed. Days later, she found herself in front of the cameras on national television, ready to lay bare her soul to the world. Taking a deep breath, she began, "My name is Cynthia, and I have a story to share. Some years ago, I was raped and contracted HIV. In my pain and anger, I made a terrible decision. I decided to spread the virus to others, thinking it would somehow ease my suffering. I was wrong. What I did was inexcusable, and I deeply regret my actions. If you have been intimate with me, please get tested immediately and seek medical help. I am profoundly sorry for the pain I have caused." The aftermath of her confession was mind-blowing. Hospitals in different locations were crowded with people seeking to be tested. The air was thick with cries and wails of despair. Wives were sobbing, husbands were grieving, and families were shattered by the revelations. The entire community was plunged into chaos and turmoil. Mabel watched the fallout with mixed emotions. She saw the devastation her sister's actions had caused, but also recognized the importance of Cynthia's confession. Despite the anger and heartbreak, she felt a glimmer of hope that through this painful process, lives could be saved and the spread of the virus could be contained. Don't throw stone in the market, for it might be on your mother's head that it lands on. I will leave us with a question. Yes, Cynthia was hurt, but do you think her anger justified her actions? What better approach do you think she should have followed? Leave your thoughts in the comment section. And thank you so much for watching. If you have not subscribed to our channel, please do. Like and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss out on any of our amazing stories. Bye!